Hi, folks. So, this is me doing my day job. I'm a landscape architect by day and a visual artist whenever I can get the opportunity to be in my backyard garden studio. So, what I want to do today was just a little snippet of what I do, and I am just putting together a front yard landscape, hoping that with spring, hopefully, fingers crossed, around the corner, that any homeowners out there that are looking to do something to beautify their front yard, they may get something out of this that can assist them in doing so on their own. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using a simple piece of graph paper, and each square in this version I am using as 1/8 inch equals 1 foot. So each square then is 2 foot by 2 foot squared. And so you'd be able to put a ruler on this and see that. But using the graph paper just means that we don't need these tools to draw this out effectively and to scale. So before this step, of course, you need to go outside and measure the front, across the front of your house. Make sure that you locate your windows and get the size of those, locate your front door, locate your garage, make sure that you are getting the length of your driveway down to either the municipal sidewalk, then the sidewalk and the boulevard, or straight to the curb, depending on what your front yard consists of. I like to give myself little notes just so at a quick view at this plan, you can tell what's what. So driveway, road, and I'm going to be putting in a walkway that's going to lead off the driveway and go to the backyard. I like to bring those walkways down about 5, maybe 6 feet down the driveway just to increase the comfort level if you are moving something from front to back. Showing the front porch and needing 2 steps to get from that front porch down to the walkway that leads to the driveway. Now for this project, just using really simple, clean lines, no curves, except in one spot in the landscape that we'll show you later. Now for this front walkway, I'm only doing 4 feet wide, and truth be told, I would typically recommend at minimum a 5-foot walkway. Just increases that comfort for walking 2 abreast. And I like to jog or extend so that I can extend that walkway down the driveway. It gives a little extra space in that driveway. Driveways are never wide enough, and so whenever we can creep down the driveway to give more landing space when we get out of a car, it's always helpful. And jogging it the way that we've done here too, it respects that desire line. People don't typically walk and then pivot 90 degrees when they're turning. And so these jogs allow us to cut the corners. And that is what we call in landscape architecture a desire line. I'm putting in a little accent wall at the front yard here, and it's pulled away from the house and on the opposite side of that walkway so that it helps to integrate the architecture of the home with something built in the landscape. And it just helps soften things, helps to bring things together. Putting in a little stepping stone off of that jogged walkway. You can, sometimes it's just a visual thing, but you can also use it as part of that desire line. And indicating here, just with some quick sketches, that I intend to use a precast concrete paver as my surface. Now, depending on where you are in the world, you will have different materials available to you. I'm in southwestern Ontario, Canada, and I know that pavers will do just fine in our climate. I also want to put a band of these pavers around the driveway and just keep the rest of the driveway asphalt. This helps just to integrate the components. So you are creating a fluid landscape. Always good to label up what your intentions are. So what is this wall in the landscape? Making sure that is labeled properly. Because if you are like me, my days of installing landscapes are done. I much prefer hiring someone to do the work for me now. But in order to do that, I needed to communicate my thoughts and ideas with a contractor. And so making sure that things are labeled is important for that. And that's why using graph paper is important as well, because it's that built-in scale. Now, because the overall drawing that I'm doing is a plan view, so it's as though I'm flying over top and looking down, it's really hard to communicate that visual for this accent wall or this house number wall. And so just doing a quick sketch to scale, but twice the size of that plan scale to better indicate the intention of this wall if I am going to pass this over to a contractor. And so there's the house number going in there, just doing it off to the side a little bit, just a little creative edge to it. And I'm showing some of the plantings as well, just to indicate how this wall is to be nestled into the softer landscape. So now from there, I'm going to start bubbling in my planting intentions. It's important to hop on a search engine and type in plant hardiness zones. And once that comes up, select a site. Most of those sites, you'll be able to enter your location and it will automatically tell you what your plant hardiness zone is. And so what that means is it helps you to find the plants that are available to you and what will grow effectively in your climate. So here where I am, I'm a zone 5B, and I then know that if I find something that I really, really like, but the nursery is listing it as a zone 8, it's just not going to grow well here, if at all. And it's certainly not readily available because it just won't grow. We have harsh winters and what can be very dry summers, very hot. So we definitely need to be very watchful of our plant hardiness zones. Now, zone 5B, I can still plant something that's zone 1 or zone 2, but I can't plant something that's a zone 7 or an 8 and upwards to 10. So what I'm showing here is just a small little evergreen hedge to go across the front walkway, some evergreen work as well, evergreen plants, some shrubs to go across the front of the house. These are my foundation plantings, and I prefer evergreen because whenever I look at the front of this house, whether it's in June or it's in December, it's green. And so it's that automatic all year interest. Foundation plantings are super important, but so are adding those elements of other interests. So in this case, I've just drawn in something that's got a foliage color, like a leaf color, but also flowers. So it's going to provide interest in that way. I've added a plant, just one, so it's going to be a special plant at the corner of the house, and that's going to soften that hard line of the corner of the house. So lots to think about, but it is doable to do some research and map out your property and put it together. It's important to write down your quantities for your plants and write down the names. I use the English name rather than the botanical name. However, clients do get a chart that has both. When we are deciding to do a planting, and maybe what I'll do one day is a solely a planting plan, because we want to make sure that we are placing and spacing our plants so that we're not overcrowding in a 5 year, 3 to 5 year time span, and we're not underplanting to the point that we've got a lot of empty space still at that 3 to 5 year mark. Plants are super important for shading our garden, for weed control, for keeping the moisture in the soil, and knowing how to plant them in order to reach those goals is super important. Typically, I would draw something that, let's say, a shrub that would grow to about 4 feet at maturity. I would draw the circle or the symbol at 3 feet, so 75% of that full size. And then I would overlap those symbols, and that's a really good way to make sure that you are meeting those goals. Perennials and grasses, I would typically show automatically at a full size just because they tend to grow much faster than a shrub. Trees, deciduous, so trees that are going to lose their leaves, or evergreens, such as pines or fir, the trees that look like Christmas trees. They are going to typically get shown at about 60% full size, and that's because they grow for a long time. They take a long time to grow to their mature size, and we want to be realistic as far as that time span. Indicating on the drawing now what the scale is, and that again is for anyone else that might be reading this drawing, that they can read to it to scale. What else is important is knowing your north. Where is north? And so if your house faces north, then your front yard is typically going to be a bit of a darker area. Whereas if it faces east, you're going to get that morning sun, cooler much cooler in the afternoons. South, your front of your house could heat up like crazy. Could bake out there. And then west, you're getting that later afternoon sun. So just here, just an overall view, just so you can see how this has come together.